I'd like to walk you quickly through analysis of our State House map. You know, Section 2 of the Federal Voting Rights Act provides legal obligations and protection for our state's majority-minority districts, and therefore we've drawn them consistently with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act provides legal protections and obligations for minority districts in Collier, Hardy, Hendry, Hillsborough, and Monroe counties, and therefore we've drawn them consistently with that provision in mind. And state law prohibits drawing out districts with a political intent, and we have followed the law. Newspaper accounts of the profound impacts of our State House map point to a drawing of this map without intent. And the reality, members, is that because we have followed both federal law and our state constitution, some of us in this chamber won't be coming back. And it has nothing to do with term limits. State law also requires that we not diminish existing opportunities for racial and language minorities, and to diminish the likelihood of something means to make it less likely or less able. And that also has not occurred in the State House map. In addition, state law requires districts to be contiguous, and we've done that in every district on these maps. You know, those are the first-tier standards in our state law, and the second-tier standard in our state law requires equal population, compactness, and where feasible, adherence to political and geographical boundary lines within our districts. And those three standards are put on equal footing based on the language in the third paragraph of our new state law. Members, our population deviation in these maps is only 3.97, well within the 10% range permitted in case law. And that deviation is directly tied to the effort to use county lines and something that our new state law says is on equal footing to equal population. Regarding the compactness of our districts, you can see just by looking at the maps that many of them look like squares and rectangles, and the travel time and distance of the districts has been reduced from that of the district drawn 10 years ago. Compared to previous maps, they are more compact, based on every perimeter test and width height test we've looked at, and they make significant use of county lines. Once again, we followed the law. And speaking of better districts, you have to split up 29 counties in a State House map, and we drew a map that only splits 30, only one above the minimum. And we also drew a map that reduced city splits from previous 170 from the map 10 years ago to just 75. Members, the compliance of our state map is something that we can all be proud of. And when this legislation passes this chamber, Florida will become the national model of how redistricting should be accomplished. These maps conform to all the legalities of Amendment 5. These maps conform to the requirements of the Voting Rights Act. These maps were drawn by the most open, transparent, and bipartisan method in our history. Now, all of you know that we've had dozens of meetings, all the way from the Panhandle to the southernmost part of our state in Key West. And we listened to hundreds of hours of public testimony. We received hundreds and hundreds of suggestions, and we received over 170 maps inputted from the public. But most important, we actually used many of those ideas suggested from our citizens when the final maps were drawn. Members, in a moment, you will be voting on one of the most important pieces of legislation to come before us in the last 10 years. And with that, I urge each of you to vote yes for Senate Joint Resolution 1176 and send a clear message that the Florida House rose above the rhetoric and created legally compliant districts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right here,